Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Velazquez Perales. I'm a Ph.D. candidate here at Yale. And thanks to RITM funding, I was able to conduct research at the Archivo General del Estado de Guanajuato in Guanajuato City, Mexico. There, I came across petitions from mid-1920s to 1930s demanding state support for agraristas in the municipality of Comonfort, Guanajuato. So those petitions would be the top left one. That's the handwritten example. Agraristas are peasants who believed in and fought for land expropriation, redistribution, and the formation of land collectives, which would be named ejidos. These petitions came from representatives of local agrarian commissions or organized groups of indigenous peasants working on large landed estates within the municipality called haciendas. In most cases, these petitions were directed to the state governor, with a few directed to the federal government. In either case, so the state governor, there's an example of, I believe, the state governor, the federal government, and the municipal government in these petitions. In most cases, these petitions were directed to the state governor, a few to the federal government. In either case, agraristas complained that since 1925, in the earliest example, hacendados maintained groups of armed men, later known as guardias blancas, to harass and intimidate peasants who prescribed to an advanced agrarismo. In the most extreme examples, agraristas were killed by these groups of armed men. The Guanajuato state governor's response was usually directed towards the municipal government and took an inquisitive approach to the situation. The municipal government replied by denying allegations at first, claiming no evidence exists to prove the agrarista claims. But as agrarismo spread throughout the municipality, other haciendas formed their guards to keep newly formed agrarian commissions at bay. The conflict then between hacendados and agraristas was escalating when the Cristero War, or the conflict between the federal state aligned with agraristas and the Cristeros, armed supporters of the church and the hacienda, emerged in the municipality. During this period, the late 1920s and the 1930s, the escalation of violence against agraristas resulted in a more decisive state and federal condemnation of reactionary elements in Comonfort. But the federal government and state government, though acknowledging and calling for a cessation of hostilities, could not project their sovereignty into the municipality, in which these primary sources clearly illustrate collaboration between hacendados, cristeros, and the municipal government of Comonfort on one side, and the federal government and agraristas on the other. Agraristas in the early 1930s then realized that they were on their own, as the government could not project its sovereignty, and as such escalated their tactics by arming themselves and occupying hacendado land by force, driving the federal government into action during the Cárdenas presidency. A cross-examination of these documents illustrates a very contentious decade in Comonforense history and demonstrates where different organized actors stood in relation to the growth and expansion of agrarista movements in Comonfort, Guanajuato. Thank you. Any questions? Yes?
Richard, if pressed to answer the question of why this history matters to Mexican history, what would you say?
Why this history matters to, well, I would start with it mattering to Guanajuato state history. As a one thing I really noticed in the archives is just how neglected this municipality is. It is a municipality that is primarily indigenous. People. There are a lot of Otomi settlements in the region, and I feel like it's an indigenous history that's been long overlooked in the state in particular. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can you explain a little bit why the federal government would have been invested in supporting the agrarian movement?
The federal government since 1915 had codified land expropriation into law. All natural resources were supposed to be of the Mexican people, including land. So it was they had the law 1917, 1915, and they had it on paper, but they had a difficulty enforcing it. I think it was, my argument would be that the agraristas were successful in expropriating the land, and then the government followed when it was able to, when the agraristas had done the heavy lifting. Yes. Anybody else?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.